Howdy.
Good evening. This is Rich Glazer from the Tri-State Elite Umpires Association, and welcome to Behind the Mask. This is our third episode of our second year. And tonight we're very happy that Pat Bruno, that's a woman, Miss Pat Bruno, is our guest. She is the president of the South Jersey Rams, which is one of the biggest baseball organizations in South Jersey. I don't know how you do it all, Pat. I'm so impressed with what you do from being the president on down to being a scorekeeper. But I've known you a long time, and it's really great that you have agreed to be our guest tonight, and I know you have a lot to say.
No, it's a pleasure. I'm pretty excited about it, actually. I was kind of kidding with John when I said, maybe it's time to have a woman's perspective. And he kind of jumped on it. And I said, no, I'm really kidding. And he said, no, let's try this. So I really appreciate you guys having me on.
This could be the beginning of a broadcast career. If you need an agent, I was an agent.
Yes, Richard, I know that.
So keep me in. If this thing takes off and we get a lot of hits, call me.
Okay, absolutely. You'll
Pat,
be the first to know.
Welcome, and I just want to give full disclosure that I'm with the Rams. I've been. How many years has it been, Pat?
I think I've lost track, John, but I would say that you're probably this is your sixth season, I think.
That's what I think. Somebody asked me that last episode, and I said 6 years. But I've been a part of the program for a long time, and we've been close friends for a long time, and it's a pleasure to have you on. So thanks for doing it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we got a bunch of questions for you. Some fan submitted questions we'll get to later, but the obvious question is how's the program, and how are you dealing with the shutdown? Kind of at the worst possible time of the year, I think.
Well, it's been real tough. There's no question about it. We were launching probably our biggest and best season yet. We went into this with full teams in every single division. Every one of our tournaments that we were hosting were exploding. So it was very difficult to turn around and step back and say, okay, what are we going to do now? And, you're at the mercy of government telling you, yes, you can, or no, you can't. So it's hard because I believe in keeping communication open with the parents and letting them know what's going on. And it's real, you can't because you really have no answers. So we just try to stay upbeat. I talk with the coaches. I talk with John. I try to keep things, going that way to communicate. So other than that, quite honestly, I'm like freaking out. I want to be on the baseball field.
Yeah, everybody's in the same boat there, including umpires. Anybody who's involved in the game, really, you take a step back and realize how much you miss it. It's been tough for everybody.
Absolutely, no question.
I was going to say, as an umpiring group, we've probably had about 20 off-season training programs, including scrimmages, clinics, classroom work, and then bottom line is we're just sitting home doing podcasts.
But listen, they're interesting, so.
We're going to turn this into a full-time career. Pat, you know what I've been fascinated by the fact that you've got such a large organization, and I was wondering if you could, take a moment and walk us through the organizational growth of the South Jersey Rams. Where did you start, and how did you get to where you are now? Take us all the way back to when you were, maybe in grade school as a.
Okay, Richard, that's a long time ago. So, honestly, I pretty much started in my coaching career about 30 some years ago. About just 32 or 33 years ago, when I first moved to Pine Hill, got involved in their local organization, and I was coaching my son, and that's how I started. I've always been involved in baseball. I played softball. My uncles played baseball. So kind of came from a big baseball family, so it's always been in my blood. And so I started there. I was with the rec program for like 23 years and just saw that we were losing kids to other travel programs. So we started the South Jersey Rams. So we've been around, I think this is our 14th season.
Wow.
And it's not been easy. There's been a lot of ups and downs. And You know, it's travel ball. I'm sure you all know, kids come, kids go. And so it's hard to keep a lot of consistency, continuity. But I believe, and I don't want to overspeak, but I think John has had a big push in, or a big part of us being more consistent in our program, staying as stable as it has been while other programs are closing.
John is a very talented, organized guy. You can't miss with John.
He is. You know, I always say he's an old soul. He's a very young guy, and I'm a very older woman, and he's taught me a lot. I've been in the game a long time, but he has certainly taught me a lot, particularly in the last 6 years. Mostly because we were either coaching together, we were on the field together, or he does all of our winter workouts, and it's made a huge difference in our program.
Pat, did you say, were you a player at one time? Did you, I think you said you played softball?
I played softball, yeah.
Okay.
Went to Trenton High School.
Did you play beyond high school?
No. Back then, you know, most girls back in those days didn't even go to college. You know, we came out of school, we got a job. So
well, how did you learn so much about baseball? Because I watch you, you know, I've done some of your games over the years, right, and I've watched you. I mean, you're really good on your strategy. You seem to know all the rules. You seem to know more than anybody else who's on the field. I mean, how did you acquire this fountain of knowledge that has made you such a good baseball person?
I think pretty much the truth is I probably was fortunate enough to be surrounded by some really good coaches in my career when I was down with the rec program. And I've had some uncles who have given me some lessons and feedback or life lessons about the game. And I've just done a lot of research. And I try to surround myself with my coaches that know and bring, so that I learn from them, you know, pretty much.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I know I've done a couple of games again for you, and you've gone after me a couple of times. Call me out on things I blew.
With you mentioned 14 years. Like, we're all in the travel baseball space in some way or another. 14 years is unheard of. Do you think is this the longest or the oldest travel baseball program in South Jersey, do you think? I mean, I can't think of another program that's been around 14 years.
The South Jersey Warriors have.
Okay.
And yeah, so we're kind of in, I don't want to say we're competition with each other. At one point we were. Now we just really pretty much have a mutual respect for each other. I've known Damien, that was part of their program for so long. And we've kind of just fed off each other and just kept things going. I think it helps that they're down in Gloucester County, I'm up in Camden County. And, you know, it takes a lot of perseverance to do this. That's all I can say, honestly. You know,
it's like a full-time career.
It is, you know, and honestly, this is my first season since I retired. So I was so looking forward to this because I was going to have actually so much more time to do the things that I know are necessary to get the program bigger and better. And obviously we're shut down. So that kind of stinks. But when, you know, it is, I mean, even now with it being shut down, I'm still putting in 3-4 hours a day, trying to maneuver things around and stay in touch with parents and keep the financial stuff going and everything. So it's a full-time job doing this for sure.
Yeah. Pat, how many kids are in your organization, baseball players? Overall, from the little South Jersey Rams all the way up?
We're at about 120. If we were going to do our T-ball program again, our coach pitch program, we'd be at about 120.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wish I was 8 years old again and had John Gallante as my coach.
Absolutely. The kids.
I don't know if you'd make the team, Rich.
The kids love him. They absolutely love him, and he's been fabulous for the program. You know, he coaches he coaches 8U, and then he goes and turns around and coaches our 14-year-old team, which isn't. I'm a little prejudiced, but it's an extraordinarily good team. And again, the kids have so much respect for him and they just love him. And I think that's the other thing that I'm seeing is our coaches. John has had a tremendous effect with all of our coaches, giving them clinics and things, and that has changed the dynamics of all of our teams. You see less and less people leaving, more and more staying together and adding a piece here or there. John told me that a couple years ago. You know, it's so important to do that. You don't want to have to keep rebuilding every year.
Yeah.
So you look to fill in a piece here and a piece there, because kids do leave, you know, for whatever reason, but you want to keep the basis of your, you know, of your team together, and then, you know, add to it. So that has been a big help for sure.
Yeah, these kids are so lucky. They probably don't realize how fortunate and lucky they are to be part of your organization with your leadership. But having John as a coach, I mean, it's very rare that you find somebody who knows as much about baseball and who could share it with his students. Just the way he trains and teaches us as umpires. But, you know, a lot of times you just see umpires, the coaches and managers out there that are, you know, they're parents and, you know, they try to run the thing, but they're not real baseball people.
Right. Well, that's another thing we've tried to do. We've tried to eliminate the daddy ball thing, and for the most part we have. Most of our coaches aren't dads, or if they are, they've been with us for a very long time and have been with other teams, and other children come back and go with their next youngest or whatever. So that does make a big difference.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, and then I want to give John some airtime here, but did you ever have a kid in your program, and you say it's how many years now?
This program, 14.
14. Did you ever have a kid in your program who has made it big time, maybe in college and beyond?
I've had kids. Yeah, I've had kids that go on to college for sure and play ball. Quite a few of them.
Any of them in the minor leagues?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Okay.
No, I wish I could say yes, but I don't think so. But that's not to say that I don't see some coming.
Somewhere in your organization, there's a little Mike Trout.
Yeah. But I think ours, the one I'm thinking of now is a catcher, so I'm not quite sure, you know.
That catcher that John has on his 14-year-old team? I forget his name. Jimmy. That kid is like he's got a shot.
Yes,
He's
anybody's
great.
got a shot, he does.
Yeah, and he's a real nice kid. I've spoken to him a number of times. Very nice boy. Very, very polite.
He is, absolutely. Yeah. And you know, John's whole 14-year-old team, quite honestly, is like that. They're a bunch of really great kids. They have a tremendous respect for him and each other. And I see a lot of them, obviously playing high school ball, but beyond that too. Because there's a lot of kids on that team that just love the game, and they absorb everything that John and Stanton, because we have to bring Stanton Konetsky into that also, who's our hitting coach, that has made a real big difference in those kids, for sure.
Oh, you guys are you're very fortunate. I mean, everybody that's part of the program is fortunate to have you in the leadership role, and people people like John and Stanton. These kids are very lucky, very lucky.
If you think back, Pat, the first time around when my brother came through the Rams, if you take a look at those rosters, right, a lot of those kids had some tremendous success in college baseball that, you know, we've all had a part in helping those kids along. But
that's true. I forget about them because it's so long ago. Yeah, because Brian was 9. I think, was he 9 or 10, I think?
10. And then once we got that team to the age that our team is right now, they started to take off. So I expect, you know, similar outcomes for our guys. So, but on the lines of like, I have a question I think you're uniquely qualified to answer with, you know, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a predominantly male field here, whether it's umpiring, travel baseball, coaching, program director. How do you deal with being most of the times the only woman in the room, the only woman on the phone call, the only woman at ground rules? How do you deal with that?
Um, in the beginning, it was really tough. I would most men would think I was either the scorekeeper or the team mom, and would be kind of shocked to find out I was the coach.
And the president.
Yeah, and the president. I think my initiation into all this was back when I was in the rec ball for part of it, and so through the years of being in rec ball and that was like 23 years, people knew me, or the guys knew me then. So I think once I got into the travel ball, I was pretty well known at that point. So I didn't have too much to prove. I think what I had to prove at that point was that I could make this work. And that was probably my biggest driving force, was that I wasn't going to fail at this, and that this was my dream to do this and to be the first woman to run a travel program. So back in the day, yeah, I got bullied a lot. People, guys tried to walk all over me. Umpires tried to walk all over me. But I pushed through. I persevered. And I think you guys know I've got a pretty strong personality. So I didn't let them get
not timid in any sense of the imagination.
I didn't let them get too much over on me. But so now it definitely is a lot better. I mean, everybody knows me. People come up to me from other states and say, "Oh, I've heard about you," or whatever. So I guess my name is kind of out there. But in the beginning, it was hard. And but again, like I said, I'm the perseverance part of me. I don't give up easy. So
you have become very famous, Pat.
oh, we'll see.
I can remember many times meeting my partner in the parking lot, and as we're walking out to the field, I said, "You see that woman over there with the orange jacket or blue jacket? That's Pat Bruno." And they shrug and they say, "Huh?" I said, "She's the president of this league."
Well, even today, people who don't know me, when they hear the name Pat Bruno, they think I'm a guy. So if they call up and they want to get in our tournament or whatever, or they call up because they want to try out for their child, and they'll say, "Is Pat Bruno there?" And I'll go speaking, and they'll go, oh, I'm expecting a man, so it still happens. Yeah. Yeah.
You can flex your muscles.
Flex a little bit, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Pat, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the common issues that you see in travel baseball umpiring? And if there, any problems and things, how do you go about fixing it?
Well, for the most part, I don't really coach anymore, so I'm not on the field at all. For the most part, if I'm with John's team, I just kind of keep the scorebook and stuff. With my other teams, I just make it enough. Try to be there at least one game a week to see them all. But I don't really get involved in it too much, because I think that's my coach's job to do that. I have to honestly say I was really tough on a lot of umpires about a lot of stuff, and
you're always tough on me, Pat.
Well, what I'm tough on is, balls and strikes I get, that's, an umpire's strike zone is going to be his strike zone, and you have to learn to adjust to that. I get aggravated. I used to get aggravated like crazy when they don't know the rules. Umpires come on and they don't actually even know the playing rules of the game. And, you don't want to call them out on it. You try to talk to them, and then they try, particularly with me, they would argue that I didn't know what I was talking about. So that I found to be very difficult. And when you're doing travel ball, and you're meeting up with some of these umpire associations that are out there, it's very difficult, because not to blow the horn of the TSC Umpire Association, but you guys train constantly, and you're teaching these guys constantly, and you're out there watching them and observing and rating them. So at least we know when a TSC umpire walks on the field, we're going to get consistency. and they're going to know what they're talking about for the most part. You're always going to get a cadet that might not know all the rules, but that's okay. And you at least can have a conversation with them. We've go to other places. John can attest to this, especially with John's team. You're getting, it's very difficult to even talk to some of the umpires out there because they think that they just walk on and they are the king of the field, and no matter what you say, they're not going to listen to.
Yeah.
So that's a difficult part.
You kind of like went into my next question for you, which is kind of a two-part question. But, you know, you've been around long enough to see the differences in umpire organizations and how what kind of product they're putting on the field. What are some of the major differences you see between our guys and just your random organization when you travel or when we, you know, go to different areas that don't use TSE umpires?
First, most of all, the professionalism that comes from a TSE umpire. They're all dressed in uniform. They all look like umpires. They all look the same. They introduce themselves. You can have a conversation with them. I'm not saying you can't challenge them on something. You know, again, there's always going to be that little bit of conflict sometimes. But for the most part, these guys know what they're talking about. And if they don't, they go to their partner and at least have a conversation about it. Other umpires associations, you know, whether they bring out one umpire on the field, they bring out two. My experience lately has been two umpires. They won't even go to their partner and talk to their partner and ask their partner for you know, for what they thought about it as a certain call or certain rule. Again, calls are calls. It happens. They're going to miss something here or there, but to not know basic baseball rules is unacceptable. You don't deserve to be on the field as an umpire taking that team's money if you can't do your job properly. Yeah. You know, and I know it's about the kids and all that stuff, but the kids want a fair game, and that's all you're asking for is a fair game, you know?
And I think, you know, I know the answer to my next question, but I think it's important to highlight it so people who run tournaments hear the answer right out of coaches' mouths, because I don't think it's something we talk about enough. We asked John Scanzano last week, but does the quality of the officiating or the quality of the umpires they put on the field affect where you travel to put your teams in tournaments?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. And when I'll determine based on the capability of the team. I mean, because we have some teams, obviously, in our organization that are better than others. So if one of our teams is, again, I'll use the 14-year-old team, if I want to put them in a situation where the umpiring is going to be good, or at least consistent, and that you as the manager and Stanton as the coach can have a conversation with them if you have a problem or a concern about anything. Some of the younger guys, you know, you can probably do with an umpire association that may not be as good, as long as they're fair. You know, I think we have a hard time finding that with the fairness sometimes, because so many people know John, and that kind of, I don't know if they do it to rile him up or not, but it's a little more difficult sometimes. That's all.
Yep. I have. There's probably a whole bunch of reasons for that probably don't have to get into.
Yeah.
But we talked earlier today about 3 o'clock, and then from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, we put out basically an avenue for people to submit questions for you to answer. We had 3 come in, so I'll start with the first one. This is from Brad from Atco, New Jersey. He said, "My son is 11 years old and has not been thrilled with the organizations he has been with for the past few years. What makes the Rams different from everybody else?"
I think first and foremost is we really try to have a family atmosphere. We care about each and every single kid, no matter what their talent level is. And we also, each and every one of our coaches strives to make sure that each one of those kids are developed so that they can get to the next level. And And again, they also really, truly care and put in a tremendous amount of time. I mean, I think I hear a lot about that. Other teams don't get any practice time. They don't have a field. They don't do this. They don't do that. I pretty much not make, but I promote that we do at least 2 to 3 practices a week, and we also do practices together. So our 9-year-old team may practice with our 10-year-old team. Our 14-year-old team practices with our 16-year-old team. So I think that does help develop players and help bring them along.
Pat, our next question came in from Sam from Cherry Hill. He wants to know, do you find it difficult for John to coach while also having this enormous presence in the umpiring industry?
Well, sometimes I think I discussed that a little bit ago, but honestly, I think what people need to know is the umpires are a little more difficult on us than they are any other team when they see it's John's team. And even his own guys, I think they tend to be a little more difficult, not difficult, but a little tougher on us. Because I think they don't want to show the other team any kind of partiality on our behalf. So, no, sometimes yes, sometimes no. You know, I kind of laugh about it. Honestly, I kind of like it. It kind of gets the juices flowing.
Yeah, I think you're right in terms of especially our guys that have to show up and, you know, come to Lakeland or wherever we're playing at the time and
Right.
umpire us with me coaching third and Stanton at first. It's they assume that the away team knows that I run the umpiring organization, and they try so hard to not show any signs of being biased that it actually goes the other way, which in the grand scheme of things is fine. I think it becomes more of an issue when we go on the road with other umpiring organizations, and that gets a little uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's why honestly it's better to travel outside of state. Once we get outside, we get to Pennsylvania, Delaware, you know, Virginia, Maryland, wherever we end up going, it's a lot easier for sure. You know, I don't know if people know who you are or relate to who you are. If they do, we certainly don't see it, that's for sure. So I think they might get a little intimidated sometimes because you know so much more than they do. That's the truth, you know. But other than that, yeah, I think it's just easier sometimes not to be local.
Yeah, it's kind of intimidating as an umpire to be working a game in front of the boss.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I made the mistake, and John pointed out to me, a game at Lakeland. I got there, I think it was a 2:00 game. I got there about 1:30. I walked down to the field just to say hello to John, nothing more. And the coach on the other team noticed that I was talking to John. And at that point, he assumed that all the calls that I was going to make were going to favor John's team.
Yeah.
They weren't, but he just assumed because he saw me shake hands with John and talk to John as if I knew him.
Right. Exactly.
So that was basically bad optics on my part.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they don't know that it's going to be more for them and against us because they are tougher on us because of John being there. I think they don't want to make any mistakes, and you know, and I don't know. It's sometimes you just it doesn't matter what you do anyway. They're going to think that. So you just have to go in and play your game and coach your game. That's all.
It's like that TV show, you know, with the boss. He's disguised and he goes down. I forget the name of the show. Something
Undercover boss.
Undercover boss.
Undercover boss.
In this case, the undercover boss is coaching third base.
Yeah.
Third question is from Randy from Pottstown, Pennsylvania. His question is, have you seen the ejection tutorial video on YouTube, and has it helped you with dealing or arguing with umpires? Has John given you tips on how to argue with umpires?
Yes, I've watched that video, but I don't coach anymore. So I don't get to argue with anybody. You know, I just get to sit back and watch the other coaches do it, you know. So I would say, for me, you know, there's no change, but I've made all of our coaches watch it so that they know how to handle situations. And I honestly believe it has helped. They've all gotten much better about it.
Do you have, even though you may not be managing or coaching in a particular game, if you see an issue develop, is there some way that you or feel like offering a tip or some strategy to your coach who's out there fighting with the umpire?
Sometimes she will.
Sometimes I have to reel some people in, but you know, like, John, you can't get thrown out of this game. We need you here, you know. But my other coaches, I won't go on the field during a game to tell them anything or make them change. You know, change anything at that particular time. I will tell them afterwards, listen, you know, you really were wrong in the way you handle that. This is what you need to do. You know, just look at the situation you got yourself in. This is where you could, you know, really benefit. And again, my coaches, and John may vouch for this, and Richard, you're still doing some of our games. Our guys are really, they handle umpires pretty well. You know, they've actually tried to calm down other coaches coaches from the other side when they get all crazy with the umpires. So I would say, I guess, yeah, it has helped.
Last question. We posted a poll earlier today for coaches and players to respond to. Basically, if you could wave a magic wand and fix one issue with umpiring at the travel baseball level, here's your 4 options. And if you have something else that's not in the 4 options, let us know what it is. Consistency of strike zones, unwillingness of umpires to get help from their partners, whether it's on a call or a rule interpretation, laziness, or professionalism. The poll right now is like 25% each. So my take from that is that everybody is unhappy with their umpires in some form or another.
Oh, absolutely. I think probably the thing that bothers me the most is a lazy umpire. You know, you get a guy who's if he's doing a game alone, he's unwilling to get out in front of the plate when he has a runner going in the second or third. Or you can obviously see that he just wants to do this game and get home. That probably bothers me more than anything, because I want to say, listen, if you don't want to be here, give me back my money. Give it, you know, we'll do the game ourselves. That you know, it really, you know, pretty much that's it. I would think that laziness.
Yeah.
Well, Pat, after all this time of us running the podcast and how long we've been together, it's been great to have you on. Thanks for taking all the fan submitted questions. I'm hoping we're back on the field soon, but I don't know.
I don't know. I saw the governor today. I'm not a happy camper.
I know.
I was, kind of losing my crap today. So, yeah. Well, let's just
Pat, a pleasure to see you. I want to thank you very much for taking time. And I could say we've come a long way together.
Absolutely, Richard. John and I can say the same thing.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Exactly the same.
I'm sure I'll see you at one of the local restaurants.
I'm sure. Let's hope.
We'll have a Bloody Mary.
All right.
Thanks, Pat. Stay safe.
You guys too. Thank you.